Welcome and thank you for tuning in. We're proceeding today with the healing workshop addressing maladjusted coping modes. These are important because, number one, they are necessary in sustaining our early maladjusted schema. These are the emotional wounds that take on a mode, a perspective, a tendency to possess our lives. We begin to live our lives by degree in terms of them, and we're interested in liberating ourselves from that fixation, from those repetitive emotional states, circumstances, realities, which we call early maladjusted schema. So we had just talked about very particular type of coping mode, being judgmental, fixing others, and we had one more being entitled. And so we looked at that, critical in understanding maladjusted coping modes is that they're not personal. Well, that is why we encourage ongoing meditation, because the meditative process is a non-judgmental practice. We suspend judgment and we observe the world as it is, rather than as it should be, or as it could be, or as it would be. And a very big difference. We enter the world of it is as it is, and see nature as it is. This is a scientific perspective worth cultivating. And today, very briefly, I'd like to move through several associated coping modes, and we're going to begin with it being someone else. We'll start there. It's not an extreme aspect of this condition. I know it sounds extraordinary, but it's just another card. I had a good friend who decided that she liked the Latina accent, and she was really from Eastern Europe, and well, she did it very well, but she became someone else. And by the way, she stopped doing that and recognized that she was in a spell, so to speak. And it happens, yes, it happens with the defectiveness schema. It can happen with the sense of feeling that you're less than important, not pretty, shameful, different even, that type of thing. So when we practice this, we're interested in interrupting it. That is the idea of it. What do? We interrupt its frequency, its duration, and its intensity. We are very interested in reducing intensity, because there's where we become possessed by the coping mode, by the mode state associated with the coping mode. And getting over can also be a coping mode where we're in a constant competition with others. However, in getting over, we need to diminish the other person to some extent, and we have to self-aggrandize in a sort of a antisocial fashion, actually. And getting over, a lot of us are oriented that way. My recommendations is to understand that what you're looking at is what is looking. That other is you. So yes, we have to modulate towards infinite compassion. We do it slowly, respectfully, according to the cards that have been handed us. And again, these qualities, though they may sound unflattering, are simply conditions of the human being. And we'd be wise to accept them. Why? They're there, and they're not going away anytime soon. They are part of our human potential. Being outstanding is another type of identity-oriented maladjusted coping mode. It does not necessarily need to be maladjusted, but when we are overly invested in being outstanding, being impressive, status seeking, these are certainly clear indicators that we're very socially oriented and possibly to an excessive degree. Yes, we gather our identity a great deal from our social interactions, very critical field of the human experience. However, very easily becomes a pathology when we believe it's everything. Yes, we believe it's everything. We believe that it is the scope of the human event. And in many ways, of course, we must acknowledge how important our social relationships are. And indeed, we are social creatures, and that will remain that way always. So we've looked at certain types of maladjusted coping modes. This seeking approval type we've just discussed. This is important. We need the approval of each other. We also need to keep the rascal in us, so you know that thief in us needs to remain. That card needs to remain. We need that potential. We need to be good liars when we need to lie, and we need to be deceptive. Why? It's a necessary card in the human potential, and it needs to be retained. We can retain it simply by moving off it and addressing other things. It'll be there for us if and when we need it. So we've had a conversation about some more maladjusted coping modes today. Critical is the ability to not generate a shadow about them. In other words, when we encounter a quality, for example, envy or deceptiveness, social insecurity, leading us to be perhaps overly indifferent, towards people. We recognize this with a non-judgmental perspective. We accept life as it is, and we do not take ourselves as personally. Let's do that now for a moment and let the world off the hook. Do it and let yourself off the hook for the moment. You'll come back and you'll be reconnected as usual. Let's do it. Just want to say that a cold wind has just hit me. I'm now in radical acceptance. It is as it is. Letting go, we modulate into a communion. And that communion is with an infinite intelligence that is always well. So keep it up. Thank you for your participation in today's workshop, and continue to tune in. We have several more videos to complete. I hope you're enjoying this and gathering a great deal from it. I certainly recommend it for therapists also, besides those of us who are willing to investigate our minds and get to work on developing ourselves and liberating ourselves from unnecessary psychological suffering. Thank you.